Hyperthymesia. Imagine being able to remember everything that has ever happened to you in perfect detail. That's hyperthymesia. This type of memory allows you to recall every event, including specific dates and personal experiences. People with hyperthymesia can tell you exactly what shirt they wore 5 years ago, the exact meal that made them sick, and the precise wording of the most cringe thing they've ever said. It's like someone asking you what you did on April 12th, 2018, and you could instantly tell them you wore your blue jeans, had scrambled eggs for breakfast, watched pigeons getting it on outside your window, and it was slightly overcast. People with hyperthymesia don't try to remember these details, they just automatically do it. Their brain decided that every single moment was worth preserving in 4K quality. This ability is incredibly rare, with fewer than 100 confirmed cases worldwide, but it also proves that human beings are capable of retaining a great amount of information. We've just evolved not to. That's probably because the downsides really suck. People with hyperthymesia can't forget embarrassing moments, painful experiences, or even traumatic events. Every awkward conversation and heartbreak remains in crystal clear detail forever. They can even get lost in memories and waste hours reliving the past. Be glad your brain forgets stuff. Remembering every awkward moment forever would be a nightmare. Photographic memory. Photographic memory is the ability to remember visual information perfectly after only a brief exposure. Some people can glance at a page of text or complicated images for just a few seconds and recall it later with perfect accuracy. They remember exactly where specific words appeared, what font was used, and even printing errors, all burned into memory like an actual photo. That being said, true photographic memory is extremely rare, so rare in fact that some scientists debate whether it exists at all in adults. Most documented cases are found in children, and the ability often disappears as they grow up. What most people brag about as photographic memory is usually just strong visual memory combined with repetition and techniques. If you stare at something long enough, you'll remember it better. That's just your eyeballs doing their job. Synesthetic memory. Imagine tasting the number 5 or seeing Tuesday as bright green. For people with synesthetic memory, everything they experience is tied to an extrasensory hook that makes remembering it effortless. They might remember a phone number as a rainbow pattern where 3 is red, 7 is yellow, and 9 is blue. When they need to remember it, they just visualize the color pattern. But there isn't some secret universal code that you're missing out on. Everyone's synesthesia is different. Your 7 is yellow might be someone else's 7 is purple, or their 7 tastes like cinnamon. The reason this works so well for memory is that it creates multiple pathways to the same information. Forget the colors, you may still remember the taste. It's like having a built-in backup drive. While the rest of us are mumbling, was it 555 something? Someone with synesthesia is seeing a rainbow pattern light up all inside their head. Savant Memory. Do you know what day of the week your birthday was on? What about the first 15 gold medalists at the 2020 Olympics? What about the full cast list of the 13th Marvel movie? Chances are you can't. But people with savant memory can. They can recall memories within a specific domain like music, math, or calendar dates. Those few who have savant memory can instantly tell you what day of the week any historical date fell on, or hear a complicated musical piece once and play it back flawlessly. Calendar savants can calculate what day Christmas was in 1776 faster than you could Google it. Musical savants can hear a symphony once and play it back note for note. But here's the catch. Their memory power is usually locked into one tiny obscure area. Someone might know the exact date of every single wrestling match in WWE history, but not remember where they parked their car. Another might easily memorize the phone book, but can't remember your name even after you've told them 5 times. Savant memory is like a laser beam, incredibly powerful, but focused on a small area, and people with it rarely get to choose the weird thing they're great at remembering. Spatial memory. You're dropped in a hedge maze that takes you 3 hours to get out of. Then, 20 years later, you wake up in the exact same maze. But this time, you know precisely where you need to go, and it only takes you a few minutes to get out. This might be a sign that you have spatial memory, a kind of memory that allows you to remember the layouts of spaces, directions, and where objects are in relation to each other with ease. In other words, people with spatial memory are kind of like a human GPS. These are the drivers who couldn't remember 5 road names even if their life depended on it, but could perfectly replay every turn on a 12-hour road trip in their head. The really cool thing is that those with spatial memory can actually use their understanding of space to predict what other spaces might look like. Someone could look at the layout of a building they've never been to and instantly understand exactly how every room connects without consciously trying to figure it out. It's like a perfect mix between instinct and memory, and it makes perfect sense why a lot of humans have this ability. Our ancestors needed to remember where water, food, and shelter were while dodging predators and angry neighbors with pointy sticks. If you forgot your way home back then, you were dinner. Today, it mostly means never getting trapped in IKEA, which might be even worse. Declarative memory. How smart would you be if you could remember everything you've ever read? Probably not that much because you don't read, but even if you did, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. The problem is, your brain is constantly forgetting stuff to make room for more facts. It's like a massive library where the oldest books are burned to make space for new ones. However, those with declarative memory don't lose their books. Their library is always stocked, which makes them amazing for game shows like Jeopardy or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. The thing that makes declarative memory special is accessibility. People with declarative memory aren't just packed with information, they have an excellent organization system that lets them quickly find specific information from their huge mental database. Sometimes, this can be stupid trivia, but on the other hand, these people are very sought out by governments and universities for their amazing fact retention abilities. The good news is that you can actually train this one. Spaced repetition, flashcards, and study systems can turn even the dumbest caveman brain into a trivia machine. You too can memorize every capital city or even the serial number on your toaster if you wanted to. Whether that's useful information is another question. Musical memory. Everyone knows what it's like to get a song stuck in their head, but chances are you just loop around one part, not the full song. People with musical memory take it to a whole nother level. They're able to remember melodies, rhythms, and musical structures perfectly after only hearing the song once. They can remember exact fingerings for piano pieces years later, or recognize tiny variations in different recordings. Some can even mentally shift songs to new keys or swap instruments in their head just to imagine how it might sound. Musical memory involves multiple brain systems working together. Auditory processing, motor memory, pattern recognition, and emotional memory all contribute to creating detailed musical memories that last a lifetime. For musicians, this is like a cheat code, but for the rest of us, it's just annoying when Baby Shark won't leave our head. The evolutionary cause for musical memory is not really clear either. Nobody really needed to be composing avant-garde jazz in the days of pointy sticks and discovering fire, but some researchers think that it may have more to do with our brain's abilities to detect patterns rather than music itself specifically. Superior recognition memory. Do you remember the face of the person who poured you a cup of coffee in that new place 2 weeks ago? Or what about the face of a criminal that you just happened to see flee the scene of a crime? For most people, this would be close to impossible, but for those with superior recognition memory, it's actually a walk in the park. They have the ability to recognize people they've only met briefly or haven't seen in years, and they can remember their faces with uncanny consistency. They might spot their kindergarten teacher 20 years later, or recognize an actor who appeared for 2 seconds in the background of a movie. And it's not just faces. This ability often extends to objects, cars, or even buildings. No wonder detectives work tirelessly to try to develop this skill. If you could remember all the faces and crime scenes perfectly, all you would need to do is just play Connect the Dots. Flashbulb memory. The truth is, scientists don't really know how brains work that well, so we use metaphors to try and figure it out. One of the most popular is the idea that memory works like a camera snapping pictures of moments in your life. The problem is, this camera tends to lose a lot of those photos, or blur them until they're barely recognizable. Flashbulb memory is a little different. People with it remember emotionally intense events with almost perfect detail. They recall who was there, where they were standing, and even the exact time. These memories almost feel like they're burned into their mind like a fresh photograph. Of course, anyone would remember something that is shocking or surprising, but those with flashbulb memory have this ability completely roided up, and for a whole lot more different events. They might remember a great joke they told, satisfaction after finally pushing through that months-long procrastination, or even the sweet victory of finding a toenail that you thought was lost forever. But here's the twist. While these memories feel incredibly detailed and accurate, they can sometimes be misleading. Because they're tied to your emotions, you might process the event differently than how it actually was. More than anything, emotion is the biggest reason you're likely to remember something. Shame, it's hard to get emotional about math formulas before a test, but you get the idea. So do you have any of these special memory types, or do you just forget where you left your keys every 5 minutes? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, you're going to love the next one about every body mutation you might have. Anyways, thanks for watching.